Hi there. Let's start on our second chapter of Illustrator. We're going to be creating a poster that looks like this. And what's interesting about this one is think about if you had a client that had just hand sketched this out, say on a napkin or a piece of paper, and they want you to make a poster out of that. Well, we can't take a hand-drawn thing like that and make it print ready. So this is what we're going to do is take this and put it in Illustrator and create a vector out of it. So go ahead and get started in Illustrator. We're going to say New File. We're going to go to Print and just choose Letter, which is the first one right up here. We're going to call this Sailboat and change this to inches. All of this should be the same. Portrait, one artboard, and we are in CMYK, which is for print, and hit Create. Now before we get started, let's make sure we're all in the same workspace. Window, Workspaces, Essentials, Classic. So go to View and say Fit Artboard in Window. If you do that first, it's going to make this next thing work better. We need to place that image of the sailboat that our client gave us. So say File, Place, and go to wherever you have your student files. This is going to be called Regatta, and of course make sure it's unzipped. Mine is already unzipped. And here it is, the sketch that our client gave us. Now once again, we want to take this sketch and just use it as a template. So you might remember this from the last chapter. You're going to click on Template and say Paste. And it should put it right in the middle. If it doesn't, you can just move it over. So here is our template. You can go ahead and double click on that template and let's go ahead and merge it, go down to about 25%. And then this one that's called Layer 1, that's where we're going to be doing all of our drawing on. So make sure whenever you're doing anything new, you want to be on this. If you ever see that you can't make any changes, it's because you're accidentally on the wrong layer and it's locked, so it's not letting you do anything. So let's change the name of this layer. Double click on the little icon box. And let's change this to boat drawing. So just make sure you're on the boat drawing when you're actually drawing the boat. So on that layer, we need to go ahead and grab the pen tool. Now, if you haven't watched the pen tool video that I made right before this, you should watch that first. We're going to just have our default 1-point black stroke, but we don't want anything in the fill. So just click on Fill and say None. Okay, so if I were to just click once with the pen tool, it's just going to make a point. If I click and drag, it's going to make a curved point like that. So that's important to remember. So let's go ahead and start down here. You may want to scroll in, Alt, scroll your mouse so you can just see this. We're just going to click once right here. Now when we get down to here, we need to click and drag until that first line is looking kind of like the side of the boat. That looks pretty good. Now you can see if we try and go over here, it's going to make it curved too. That's okay. Click and drag. And you may get it pretty close. We're going to go back and fix that other one in a second. But now you can see that's not working right. So what we need to do is split these. So if I start, oops. So I'm going to click Alt and hold it down, and you will see that our mouse has changed. This is the Convert Anchor tool. And we're just going to drag this up a little bit. Now when we click and drag, it should be right. We need to do the same thing again. Alt, click, and point it in the direction you're trying to go. Let go. Click and drag. I'm going to spacebar and move it over. So that looks pretty good. This down here is a little bit messed up, so let's just fix that after the fact. Go get your direct selection tool, because you remember the selection tool is going to choose the entire boat. We need just this one point right here. So we're going to grab that one point. Now right now, if we were to move this, do you see it's moving both at the same time because they're attached? Well, you remember that tool we just got, which was the Convert Anchor tool. That was with Alt. So if you press Alt, it's going to split those. Do you see they're now moving separately? So then you can split that one and fix it. Now it messed up this one just a tad. This one we don't have to split because we already split it. So I can now just pull this down a little bit. You may need to try this a few times if this is the first time you're using the pen tool, but we're pretty much done with that. Let's get our regular selection tool back, and I'm going to space bar and move up to this next part. So for this one, the book has us doing it a little bit different just to teach you the pen tool better. So let's go back and grab our pen tool again, and remember we have nothing in the fill, just one black stroke. You're just going to click once, don't click and drag, just click once. Bring your mouse down to here, click once, click, and then join them at the top, click. So we basically have a triangle. We're still in the pen tool. Hover over this top of this first anchor and click Alt, and you'll see the anchor point tool comes, or the convert anchor tool. Just click and drag to the left, and you see that's turned it into a curve angle. It's turned it into a curve point. Let's do the same with the others. Alt and Alt. Now that we've got them changed, we can go and get our direct selection tool, and we need to kind of make this one look right. But you see I made this one right and it really messed this one up. That's okay, let's split them. So click the Alt button and it's going to split these two. So now we can make this look pretty good. We also need to split this one. So Alt, I need to adjust this one a little bit. There we go. That one's looking pretty good. Let's split this one. So Alt, that one's looking good. There you go. That looks pretty good. So you see how you can fix it. When we drew with this first one, we fixed it as we went. This one, we just fixed it afterwards. So whichever one works better for you is absolutely fine. Now we need to draw these lines that go straight across. So make sure you're outside, way outside of where this sailboat is, and just click once and drag it over to the side and click again. Now that doesn't look right, but it's okay. We're going to press Alt and we'll get that convert anchor tool, and then just grab the path and drag it down. Now it doesn't have to be exact, but now you see this is still attached. I can't go and draw a new line. That's fine. Hit Control and you'll notice that you change to the pen tool. So now click anywhere off of the drawing and it has deselected that line. Now we can let go of Control and we have the pen tool back. So once again, just click once, click again, Alt, and make it look good. Let go of Alt. Now hit Control, select anything but the sailboat. That is deselected. Let go of Control. We're back on the pen tool. Control. All right, that's looking pretty good. Everybody save your work, Control S. Now we're going to use the shape builder tool that we used last time. So first let's select all of these with your selection tool. Just click and drag over everything in the sailboat so that all of that is together. So right now, if we wanted to change, you see it says C1, C2, C3, all that. Those are different colors. Well, right now we can't change these colors because this is just one big shape. So we've got to use the shape builder to say all of these little separate things are different shapes. So let's get the shape builder tool. It's right here. And I need to come and tell it this is a shape. You see it changed colors. This is a shape. This is a shape. All of these things are separate shapes. Now when you go back and get the selection tool and you click off of it, you can see these things are now all separated. Do you see that's a separate shape all to itself? So we can go back and get rid of all this little stuff that's on the outline. So if you click once on that and hit the delete key, all of these are now gone. That looks pretty good. So now let's select all of these and let's fill them in with white. So the last thing we need to do is make this look a little bit more natural. If there was wind going through it, this would be kind of billowed out. So I'm going to scroll in a little bit And I'm going to go get my direct selection tool. And when I click on this once, you can see there's my little handle. So just pull this kind of up so it looks like that the wind is going through it. Once again, just click with your direct selection tool and you see the little handles right there? Oops, undo. And everybody's is going to look a little bit different here. It's fine, just do it as much of the wind you think it should look like. Okay, that looks a lot more realistic. The last thing we need to do is draw this other sail. We're going to use the pen tool for that again. So I would just click once, click and drag. Alt to get the Alt, and then pull that direction it's going to go. Continue drawing, click and drag. Alt, kind of point that in the right direction. Click and drag. And you can see mine's not perfect. I'm just going to go back and get it. Let's get the direct selection tool and kind of move that until it looks right. All right, that looks pretty good. Everybody save. So now with the selection tool, let's select the bottom part of the boat, and we're going to go right up here and change that to black, and go ahead and take the stroke off, so say none on stroke. All right, we need to draw these little things that are kind of behind this. So there is a simple tool that can help us with this. It's right here. It's called the Draw Behind tool. So make sure nothing is selected. Let's click on the Draw Behind tool. And we're going to get our pen tool. But this time I want to change to a brown. So let's choose this kind of medium brown, the fourth one over, right here. And you're just going to go click, click. And you can go behind it. This is fine. It's going to draw it behind. So make sure you're underneath where the boat would be. Click, click, click. And because we're in this draw behind mode, it put it behind everything. Control and click off of that so it's not selected. Let go of control and we're back in the pen tool. And now we can draw this other little mast over here. Click, click, click. Control, click off of it. That looks pretty good. Now with that same color chosen, let's go get the pen tool. Let's go get the pencil tool. It's right behind the shaper tool. If you click and hold your mouse down, grab the pencil tool, and we want to use a brown stroke. So go ahead and click this so it reverses, and that same brown will now be on our stroke. And we want to do a 2-point stroke. And let's just draw these lines. And everybody's is going to look a little bit different. If you don't like the way it looks, you can always go back and adjust it some. Yeah, I want this to be behind that. I don't like the way that looks. It doesn't have to be perfect. Lines are blowing in the wind. All right, you can save and we'll keep going to the next page. So now let's get our swatches panel. It should be the third one down. And go ahead and pull it open so you can see all of it. We're going to go to this hamburger menu right here and say select all unused. So it's pretty much everything. Just pick that up and throw that into the trash can. So these are the only colors that are being used in this artwork so far. So now go grab this little selection tool over here, or the magic wand, and select one of these things that's white. Now go up to Select, Same, Fill Color. So basically we're telling it anything in this drawing that has the fill color that's the same as this one, which is white, please select it for me. Now we need to change the opacity of that. It's right up here in opacity. Go ahead and let's make it 50%. It's a little bit see-through. And you can see we can barely see that C2, C3 coming through. So grab your selection tool and select off so that everything's not selected anymore. And this time we want to select just that top one, which is C1. Then we need to hit Shift, which will add to our selection. So Shift and then click this one, because that's also C1, and this one at the very bottom. So all of those, it's kind of hard to see, but if you zoom in, you can see that that's selected, and then this one, because those are the ones that say C1 on them, because they're going to be a specific color. So now click right here in the little thing that looks like a palette, and we're going to just choose a green. You can choose any green that you want. Make sure that you are on the fill, that the fill is on the top so that this goes to the fill, and we're just going to choose a green that we want to fill that in with. Now with that still selected, go to your swatches panel and click this little plus icon. We're telling it we want to add this green color to our swatches. And make sure that this global right here is turned on and say OK. And you can see we have a new color added to our swatches. So select anywhere off of this to deselect, and now we need to do C2. So click once on the C2, Shift, and click this one that says C2. Go back to color, and this time we're going to choose a blue. And we're going to add that to the swatches also. And for the last group, and for the last one, C3, you can choose a purple. Now let's go back to the magic wand tool or the selection tool here and select on that. This time we're going to go up to Select, Same, Opacity. And notice, even though these are different colors, it's selected them all. And we can put our opacity back to 100. We needed it to be down at 50 so we could see those different colors. So now make sure nothing is selected. And we're going to grab just this other sail. And we're going to fill this with a gradient. So go here to the gradient tool. And we need to click the third one over, which is called Freeform Gradient. And you see it's going to put these dots up here. Let's grab this first dot and move it all the way down to this bottom thing here, the lower left. And double click on that. And we need to choose double click on that, and it's going to bring up this, it's going to ask us what color we want it to be. So you could choose with the CMYK sliders, but let's click this second thing that's the swatches and choose the green that we made before. Now make sure that little dot is still selected and change this right here to lines. So when you click on that and then drag it up, do you see it's given us a little line? We're telling it we want it to be green all the way up to here, so click again. And we're just saying all of that needs to be green. So now hit the escape key to tell it we're done drawing. So you should be out of that little line. So now you can click down in here, about right here, and it's going to add a new point. Double click on that point, and once again go to swatches and choose your blue. Now we still have lines selected, so if you're selected on that, if you're selected on that still, you should get a little blue line. So draw it up to the very top, click, and now you kind of have a cool little gradient going right there. So let's do one more, and we're going to make that purple. So if you might have to hit escape to make sure we're out of that first line. Add a point. Double click on that point. This time choose the purple. Now I'll draw a line straight up from it up to the very top. And you can move it a little bit if you need to. Everybody's is going to look just a little bit different. And you don't have to join. Mine kind of joined at the top, which is fine, but you don't have to make them join if you don't want to. That's looking pretty good. So now we've got that looking pretty good. We're going to go and change our colors to completely different colors. So make sure everything's not selected. So just select off and go back to your swatches panel. And you remember when we made these swatches, we called them global swatches. So double click on the green swatch and we're going to change this to a different color. And because we said global, every time green appears, it's going to change it to a different color. So for the C of the cyan, we need that to be 0. You can hit the tab key. Magenta needs to be 75. Tab again. Yellow should be 75. And K, which stands kind of for black and white, needs to be 10. And hit OK. So you can see it's changed. Every time the green was on the screen, it has changed it. So now let's do that for the other ones. For blue, double click on the blue in your swatches. And let's change the C to 0. Tab, magenta should be 10. Yellow should be 100. And K should be 0. So that's 0, 10, 100, and 0. And last, let's do the purple. Double click on purple. Change cyan to 0. Magenta to 60. Yellow to 100, and K to 0, and hit enter. And it should look like it's supposed to in the book. Let's go ahead and save. All right, so let's save this and we're ready to move on. We're going to go to our layers panel right here and open up your boat drawing so you can see all these different layers and select any of these paths. It doesn't matter which one. And then say select all. And then we're going to group these together. So that would be Control G, or you can say Object Group. Mine's grayed out because I've already done it. And then we need to name this. If you double click on it, we're just going to name this Sailboat. And hit OK. So while all of that group is selected, we're going to go up to Edit and say Copy. So that's going to put it in our copy paste buffer. So when we go into something else, we can paste it. So we're done with this one. Let's just go ahead and close it. It's going to ask to save. Yes. And remember that sailboat, we just copied it and it's ready to be pasted somewhere. So now let's go and open up the rest of the poster. Say File, Open, and go back to where you had your student files, and you're going to open the one called poster.ai. Now I'm glad I accidentally did this. I'm on a new computer that I have not loaded the Adobe, the fonts for this. Remember that there were fonts loaded. So if you have not loaded your fonts, you're going to have to stop down and do that. So it's looking for, ATC stands for Against the Clock. So it's looking for those. So I'm actually going to close down, load my fonts, and then do this again. So give me a minute. So if you haven't loaded your fonts yet, here is a quick tutorial on doing that. I'm going to go right here and download these fonts. And then I'm going to go find them in my download folder. Here they are. I'm going to right click and say Extract All. And here are all my fonts. You're going to have to go into each one, select all of these, right click and say Install. So just go through all of them and install them on your computer, and then when you get back, they should be there and you won't get that same error message that I just got. So now that I've installed my fonts, I'm going to try this again. So I'm going to say Open and go find that poster. And you can see it did not give me that error message because I have the correct fonts loaded. So now let's go to View, Fit to Artboard, and say Edit, Paste. And it remembers what we had there and it pasted it in there. So if you remember, we copied it from the other one and it was sitting there waiting this whole time, and then I pasted it in there. So we need to pick this up and move it so that it's kind of in the waves. And then if you kind of look at this, here's all of our different waves and stuff. We want it to be behind a few of the waves. So if you pick that group up that is our sailboat and drag it down to under wave 6, you see how that wave's now kind of on top of it? That looks much better. So with nothing selected, come over here to your artboard and open up this layer that we've made. So I want you to start right here where it says date and time. Click and drag your mouse straight down, and basically you're locking everything. So you don't want to lock the very top one that says layer 1, just lock all of these. Now we want to mess with wave 8. And now we want to turn the eyeball off of left banner because we want to be able to see this, which is wave 8, which is right here, that top wave. So we have left banner is turned off, and we need to unlock the wave 8 layer. So make sure nothing is selected, and we're going to go over and get the blob brush tool, which is right underneath the paintbrush tool. Double click on the blob brush tool to bring up the selection, and we need to change a couple things. You're going to click keep selected. You're not going to have it clicked merge only, and then you're going to change it to about 75%. So just like with the pencil tool, it's going to draw it a little bit nicer for us and make it smoother. Go ahead and hit OK. And make sure we're in the default fill. And make sure we're on the defaults for colors over here with white and black. Now make sure you go over the top of where wave 8 starts, about right here, and just draw a kind of weird looking little splashy thing. I really don't think this looks very good. But everybody's is going to look a little bit different. Just make it kind of look like water is coming out. There you go. That is pretty ugly. I wish they didn't have us do that. I liked it before, but that's okay. Now go ahead and get your selection tool and select away from that and save your work. Now if we say select all, notice that it has only selected these paths that I just made and wave 8 because those are the only things that are visible and not locked. So it's got those things selected, just wave 8 and the stuff we just drew. We can now use the Pathfinder tool. Now we used that in the last chapter. If you can't find it, you can always go up to Window, Pathfinder. Or you can use it, there's a little mini Pathfinder right here in Properties. So we're going to click the very first one, which is Unite. So it's going to unite all those little drawings we made and wave 8. Now right now it looks a little weird, but don't worry. We're going to go back to Layers, and we're going to pick up that new group we made and put it below wave 7. Now with that group still selected, go grab your eyedropper tool and choose that deepest blue, which is right here. And it'll change it back to the blue. Okay, and save your work. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn the left banner back on. And look at this up here where it says Long Beach. I'm just going to scroll in a little bit. It's using a kind of a different font from everything else. I'm going to unlock this for a second so I can show you. What they have done here is this is not font anymore. If I go and look at this word Long Beach, they've actually turned it into shapes. So if I click on the A, do you see it's not really, we can't get the type tool and try and grab this and change it to a different font because each letter has been turned into a shape all to itself. That's something called outlining your font. So they've outlined it, and we've decided we need to change this, but we can't because it is no longer a font. So in the past, designers have had to call up the fonts and sit here and look at them manually and try and figure out what font is this that this designer used. And there is a new feature that can really help us with this. So y'all be glad that you are alive in 2024. This is a good new feature. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my character window is open. Go to Window, go down to Type, Character, and you might need to pick it up and dock it over here just so we won't lose it. So you can see we can't choose this as a font. It is no longer a font. So we're going to go up to Window and find Retype Beta. And this is the new Retype Beta. You may need to click on a little thing that says download. If you haven't used this before, you'll see something down here and you need to click download, or it may come up and tell you to download it. So once you've downloaded Retype Beta, you'll be ready to go. So now in your layers panel, make sure that that's not my layers panel. In your layers panel, make sure that this left banner is not locked. And with the selection tool, we are just going to make sure we have that one selected, which you can see we do. It's got the little blue things next to it. And we're just going to click match font. And the AI is going to go through and look at everything that is in that and tell us what font it thinks we have. And it's still processing, so give it a minute. So the Retype AI has gone through and it's given you some choices that it thinks it might be. I'm just going to tell you right now, it is Brie Regular. So if we click on Brie Regular, you probably have a little thing right here. It's telling you that this Brie is not active on my computer right now. Now, you may have that font already active on your computer, but if you don't, you need to go ahead and click right here, and it is going to tell Adobe we would like to load this font onto this computer. So go ahead and say that, and it should be activating right now. It might take a second, but it is activating that, and it's going to load Brie Regular from Adobe Fonts directly. You see it's got a little check mark on it. It is now done. So we can close this because we know that the original designer of this used Brie Regular. So now get back out of this. Just close this down, exit, and we don't need this anymore. So now we know we have Brie Regular. Let's go down to our original stuff, our original font down at the bottom. And that's the one called Date and Time. So unlock that. And we're going to select this font. And instead of ATC Garnet, we can do this either in the character window, which I remember I told you to open it, or you can do it right here in Properties. We're going to go choose Brie. So you can just type in Brie. And you can see there it is. We can click that now, and it's going to make that font the Brie font. So you see, if you look at the G, do you see that the G's match now? They didn't at first. That G is now the same as that G. So we've got a much more unified poster now because we're using the same fonts. So this new feature is really, really useful because you all the time are getting stuff from other designers and you don't know what font they used. So this is a great new feature. So the last thing we need to do is save this as a PDF to turn this in. Most print shops are going to want you to save it as a PDF. So we're just going to say File, Save As. Down here, choose Adobe PDF. If you don't see that, you should go back to your Creative Cloud and make sure that you loaded Adobe Acrobat Reader, or I'm sorry, Adobe Acrobat onto your computer. If you do not see this as a choice, you probably did not load that when you loaded your Creative Cloud. So just go back out, save your work, go back out, load that, and then come back and try again. So we're going to say PDF, and let's go ahead and call this what we need to turn it in, Amy Roberts hyphen, and I'm going to call this Vector Sailboat Poster. And I'm going to put that in my work in progress folder. So I know that's the one that I'm going to turn that one in for sure. Okay, one last thing to do. Okay, and we need to choose Illustrator Default. Most of the time, if you're sending it to a printer, high quality print's what you want. The book is asking us for Illustrator Default. You should take a few minutes to kind of look through all these choices. It will tell you if you have any problems before you send it. So this is good. Go ahead and hit Save PDF. So we've got that as a PDF that we can turn in. I'm also going to save it as an AI file for the next part. So I'm going to say File, Save As. And this time let's choose Adobe Illustrator. And we're going to call it the same thing, Amy Roberts Vector Sailboat Poster. Okay, so, yeah, and it's going to ask us all of that. That's fine. So notice we now have the AI poster open. We're going to save another copy. Just say save as. We're going to say File, Save as a Copy. And this time, instead of it says Copy, we're going to say -alternative, because we want to send our client an alternative version of this. So now notice the one that we have open is the regular sailboat. Let's open up that alternative one. So if you go to Open Recent Files, you can see here's the alternative one. So now we have two open. We have the original one and we have the alternative one. So we're going to make some changes on this one, and then this one is just the first one we did. So go up to Object, Unlock All. So all of that stuff over here should be unlocked. I'm just going to check really quick. My computer is really lagging. Yep, everything's unlocked. So go back up to Select and say Object, no. Go up to Select and say Select All. So you'll see it has selected everything. So now with everything selected, we're going to go to Recolor. The Recolor artwork is right here, up in the top. So you can click right here. If you can't find it, you can always open up this little contextual taskbar that I've kind of pushed off to the side, and it's right here for Recolor. So it's the same thing. Now this is going to pop up, which is the Recolor artwork. This is kind of the old way to look at it. We're actually going to go to this new fun one called Generative Recolor. Now, so it wants a prompt. The book says to just type in tropical sunrise and hit generate. And once all these pop up, you are allowed to choose whichever one you like best. I'm going to go ahead and choose this kind of purpley one. And you can see it has just automatically changed all that for us. All right, now that's done. We're going to say File, Save As. We're going to choose PDF. And we're going to save the PDF just like we did before, so we can turn in this first one and the one that says Alternative. And just Illustrator default is fine. Save the PDF. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the X to close these two down. And we're going to go up to File and go to your Open Recent, and we need the one that's called Adobe Vector Sailboat Poster, the original one, .ai. So the one that's Vector Sailboat Poster AI, open that one back up. We're going to say File, Save As, and we're going to change the name of this one to Alternative 2. Go to Object, Unlock All. So now we need to go and lock the one called Date and Time and lock the one called Left Banner. So those two are locked. Go up to Select All. And notice that everything is selected except for those two that we locked. Now click Delete. And it is going to delete everything that we had except for those two that are locked. So now let's go over and grab our rectangle tool and make sure you're on the default fill and stroke. And let's draw just a rectangle that's going to fill this artboard. We're going to go up to Window, and down find text to vector. And this is going to pop up. So this is a cool new feature. It has sample prompts that you can type in. You can tell it what style you want to choose, what settings, and all this type of thing. We want to generate a new thing to go in the background of our poster. So for subject, we want to do a scene. So you see you can choose an icon, a pattern, or a subject. Like if you were typing in this juicy hamburger, it would be a subject. We're going to choose a scene. Now right here with styles, we could give it a reference image that we want to use, like an artwork, or we could click on something we want it to choose. We're not going to worry about that, and don't worry about this yet. We're just going to go down to the prompt and type in sailboat at sunrise and hit generate. Of course, agree that we're not going to use this in a bad way, and it's going to generate some options for us. Okay, it's given us 3 pretty decent choices here of what we could use. Let's generate a few more. You're going to add a little bit to the prompt. So this time let's add pop art. And generate again. I'm going to choose this one that's off to the side because I think that'll look better with what we've designed here. Kind of move this a little bit. So when you've chosen the one you like, that looks good. So one of the things you need to know is if you generate a whole lot, it's going to use up all the RAM in your computer. So we're going to go to the ones that we don't want, and you should go ahead and delete those because it's just going to hold up a lot of the RAM on your computer. So just delete those. If you ever have something you've saved and it's a really huge file, it's probably because you've done something like this, because it's going to keep all those variations for you. So it's just good housekeeping to delete those. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pick that up and move it to the bottom so we see the date and time. Okay, and if you go up to View, Trim View, that's what it's really going to look like. Actually, it looks like this group needs to move down just a tiny bit. So that was View, Trim View. Let me turn that back off. Do you see that we actually have a little bit of stuff sticking out on the outside? So the way that we can fix that is to create a clipping mask. So just go grab the rectangle tool, and this time make one that you are sure is the exact size. So I'm going to click and drag and make sure that's the exact size of our box. All right, and that's on the top. We're going to unlock everything, get your selection tool, and just click and drag over everything. And what we're going to tell it is that thing that's on the top, I want you to take that thing that's on the top and clip out everything that's bigger than that. So you say Object, Clipping Mask, Make. And you see it's nice and clean now. So now we can save this one as a PDF, File, Save As, tell it PDF. So notice we're going to have 3 things to turn in. Our original, our second one, and then this one that is actually alternative 2. Okay, so you're done. You're going to turn in 3 things. Let's look at our work in progress folder. I'm going to sort by type, so it'll put all my PDFs together. So these 3 are what I'm going to be turning in. That's my original, my first alternate, and my second alternate. All right, you've learned a bunch this week. We'll be back next time.